Kasey Kahne arrived onto the NASCAR scene, few fans had ever heard of him, a fact that Kahne changed in a hurry. Racers love his short track routes. Sponsors love his ability to push their product. And female race fans, they love those eyes. Now the kid from the Northwest has to prove that he's more than just a pretty face. How? By winning. This is the story of NASCAR rising star Kasey Kahne. This is NASCAR, driven to win.
This is where you got to be careful as a rookie. I mean, how good is this kid? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have what it takes to get by? Do you have the knowledge? He is closing fast now.
Boy, this is a dream come true for him.
White flag, boys, last time. And here they come.
I go to the race Saturday night with my parents, come home, and Sunday I was watching the NASCAR race. Never really thought about even going that direction because I just didn't think that was even an option. So I actually made it to NASCAR.
Darrell, it's not been a question of would Kasey Kahne win in Nextel Cup, just a question of when.
Hey, Kasey Kahne lost it. Oh, there's oil. There's oil on the racetrack. What an incredible turn of events. Oh, that poor kid. How good is this kid, and how good is that race car?
Here comes Kahne, Sadler by half a car length.
From the outside, finishing second in a NASCAR Nextel Cup race seems like an amazing accomplishment. For a true racer, it only means being the first loser.
But how about that kid, Kasey Kahne, in that 9 car comes home second again.
In 2004, Kasey Kahne finished second 5 times. 2 of those losses were among the closest in NASCAR history. Fans were amazed at the rookie success, but the kid that won on every step of the racing ladder was in unfamiliar territory. Facing questions about his ability to win, doubting himself, wondering if he would ever visit victory lane again. His driving style is hammer down. His boss is Ray Evernham, former mentor of NASCAR superstar Jeff Gordon. And his boyish good looks have landed him on People magazine's list of America's top 50 bachelors. But despite the outward hype, his inward focus remains true to win races at the highest possible level. It's a long way from the Pacific Northwest to Daytona Beach, but for Kasey, it was nothing less than destiny. A career that began in a family-owned sprint car with a crew of kinfolk helping at the track and in the shop.
My dad had worked on a sprint car at Skagit Speedway in Washington, and you know, since I was little, all I wanted to do was go to the racetrack on Saturday night with him.
Yeah, I was always intrigued by racing forever. Now, I don't really know why as much as just that I was, because it wasn't really in our family. It was just primarily more with me.
Kasey was at the races from the time he was a year old.
The only way I could go back then was to sit in the stands with my mom, so I had to talk her into going also. And so she went a bunch of different times so that I could go, probably not for her. She probably didn't enjoy it quite as much as I did.
In the snowy shadow of Mount Rainier lies the small town of Enumclaw, Washington, just east of Seattle. This is the unlikely place where Kasey Kahne's dreams became a racing reality. A journey of more than 3,000 miles and 100,000 laps began here.
We had a track at home. My dad built us a track out in our field. We had about 55 acres.
Right here in the field we had, you know, it was roughly an 8-mile track with bank corners, and we had a water truck down here to water the track and make it pretty racy. So we had a lot of fun on that racetrack. Me and my brother both had 4-wheelers. My cousins had 2. My best friend had 1.
We must, you know, turn like 1,000,000 laps there. I think we both learned a lot.
We only had 1 set of goggles between like 4 people, and so instead of letting one person use them, we just made it fair, and no one used them. I won the most, probably. No, Kasey and Willie won most of the time. I won some.
I liked it. They had rules. They had to wear helmets, so they had rules, and I could watch them from the window, and as long as they went by the rules, they were fine.
The Kahne clan soon graduated from 2 wheels to 4, and the search for vehicles went from one family garage to 2.
The 88 was huge. It was like 6 foot wide on the inside. You could pack like 10 people in the thing. And
I come home from work one day, and here's the 88 out on the track racing, and Mooch's truck, my brother's truck. And so I go, did you guys ask Mooch it's okay to race his truck around here? Because by now it's got a couple dented fenders on it too, you know, it wasn't all that clean. And they said, well, we don't think Mooch would care. I said, well, you better get on the phone and call him up and make sure it's okay. And it was fun. My brother was A-okay with it. In fact, he came down and raced with him and had fun with him also.
Racing in the backyard is one thing, but racing in the real world, that requires permission from a higher authority.
And I told him, well, when your mom says it's okay for you to get in a race car, then you can start racing, so.
I remember it perfectly. We were in the kitchen, and he came to me and said, Mom, he says, when I grow up, I'm going to move out and I'm going to go racing. And I thought, boy, I better let him race with his dad, because if I don't let him in a car with his dad, then he may just, who knows, jump into anything because he's so excited to race. They had a car in 2 weeks. I think it was planned.
My first real race where there was actually a flag man and, you know, that kind of stuff was at Deming Speedway when I was 14 years old. And that was kind of my start into the sprint cars. My dad, he let me race late in the year. It was down in California. All the racing was done in Washington, and we went to California. And, you know, he said, like, I remember right before the heat race, the first race, he said, remember, this is not what you're doing next year. You're racing a mini sprint next year. This is just, you know, just to practice, just to come down here and do this. And we ended up racing full-time sprint cars the next year.
I believe he was a junior. A young boy came to him and he did an interview with him. And Kasey gave him a 5-year goal. And within that interview, Kasey said he was going to be a Cup driver within those 5 years.
You know, I had a full-time job, and he was full-time going to school at the time, and so was our pit crew, you might say, because they were all young guys, my nephews and Kale. We usually take Mondays off, wash the car on Sunday, take Mondays off, you know, then work on the car Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it took to get it ready for the next weekend. And I mean, it was important to me that Kasey worked on the car also. I mean, I wanted him to know how much effort and time it takes to prepare a car, and so I wanted him to learn how important that was. I also wanted him to learn that how everything worked and know what it took to put a car together and take it apart. But so he learned a lot, and I think it's helped him a lot as far as understanding a race car and knowing how the setup works in the car so he can improve it.
Kasey's racing life had begun on the family farm, but his potential had outgrown the mud of Enumclaw. As he planned his next career move, his parents decided to separate. Still a teenager, Kasey Kahne's life stood at the crossroads. He chose the road to the east.
It's got to be the Seahawks, Seattle Seahawks, just because they're a home team. 3 drivers. Elliott Sadler, seems like he could get a lot of things done on the island. Casey Mears, we could have some fun. Jamie McMurray. I think Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon are the 2 best drivers.
Kasey Kahne's road from the backyard to NASCAR has been paved with mud, parental guidance, and a short life full of long-term goals.
I mean, I did all right in school. I was always, depending on how hard I tried. If I tried hard, I could get it, you know, 3.2, 3.5, somewhere in there. If I didn't try hard, I was down around a 2.0.
And then when he was a senior, he went to school, night school, so that he could graduate early, and he did very well that year. But he had a goal. He wanted to leave early from school.
You know, I graduated in January rather than in June, so I can get out on the full series that year and move to the Midwest.
That's really a tough day. We had the race car here for 10 years, and Kasey drove it for 5 years, and so then it was time for Kasey to move on. You know, if he wanted to have a career as a race car driver, he needed to leave Washington.
Just like any mom, you're sad when your children leave, but I knew that he was going to do something that he really loved.
It was a tough day because all our racing program was driving out the driveway, not to mention that my son and my daughter were leaving for the first time too, so.
Kasey Kahne has passed 5 cars.
The next stage in Kasey's career was a long one, 1,800 miles to be exact, to Indianapolis, the self-proclaimed racing capital of the world. Kasey's career path steered through vastly different types of race cars, from light, high-power sprint cars to heavier, hard-to-control stock cars.
Got an apartment in Indianapolis and raced the majority of that year with the All-Stars. Did some World of Outlaw races, and that was about it for that year. All dirt, all wing dirt races, a few non-wing sprint car USAC races, and that was about it for the year, which was a lot of races. We probably raced 98, 96, 98 races that year, and really learned a lot, had a bunch of fun.
Watching Kasey grow as a driver, that was really evident every day. You know, every time he got on the track, you could see that he learned something from the last race.
The younger generation of Kasey's family followed him east to support his racing dreams. A sister and 2 cousins. With their level-headed guidance, Kahne's meteoric rise remained under control. His evolutionary talent caught the eye of sprint car owner Steve Lewis, the man who discovered Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart. Sprint car superstars became NASCAR champions.
When Kasey got the opportunity to race with Steve Lewis, 2000 I think it was, when he won the National Midget Championship, and when he did that, I thought, man, this has some potential here.
Once I started driving the 9 car, I thought, you know, I might have a shot to go to NASCAR, to go to the IRL and do those other series, is just because the Tony Stewart, you know, Jason Leffler, Kenny Irwin, I just felt like there might be an opportunity now that I'm in the 9 car and driving such a famous midget.
Like Gordon and Stewart, word of Kahne's winning ways traveled south to Charlotte and the heart of NASCAR. The first owner to come calling was the man who had turned Dale Earnhardt into a champion.
When Richard Childress called me the first time, and I was actually at my grandma and grandpa's house walking through their field, and I got this call, and it was a weird number, and I answered it, and it was Richard Childress. So I was just, I mean, you just don't know what to think other than this guy's lying to me. It's not really who he says it is, and that's how my NASCAR stuff started, was because of Richard. You know, and he's like, you know, go back, talk to whoever you're working with, and tell them, you know, you have an opportunity to come drive my car.
Yeah, that'd have been really special. At that time, yeah, I think Richard was Kasey's first big opportunity, and we just had to play it out and see how it worked out for him.
That's when Ford set up the deal with Robert Yates, and from there I drove for Robert Yates the following year.
Kasey Kahne, Cadillac car. Are you familiar? Have you raced open wheels against him, Tony?
Absolutely. That kid is tough. You know, in his first year in the Busch National Series, he went through his bumps and bruises, but he just keeps getting stronger and stronger. He had a good run going at IRP, and he's running really, really strong here today, so I'm really proud of him.
Oh, hard hit.
To go Kasey Kahne to 98, almost went all the way over.
Learned a lot that year. It was an up and down year, but we learned a lot, and just learned a lot about the stock cars and what they feel like and how they drive on certain racetracks. The following year, I'd started driving for Aikens Motorsports, which was the Great Clip sponsor.
The NASCAR Busch Series is the final proving ground for racers with Cup Series dreams, racing slightly smaller cars on the same big league tracks. In the final race of 2003, Kahne proved he was ready for graduation.
Kasey Kahne, a NASCAR Busch Series winner for the first time.
Like every other series on his resume, Kahne won quickly, and once again the payoff was interest from the next level. This time, instead of waiting on the phone to ring, it was Kasey who did the calling.
I had a friend of mine tell me to give Ray Evernham a call and talk to him.
Kasey was a guy that had relatively little experience, but he wins in everything he jumps in. You know, he got in that Busch car, and he did a good job, you know, for Aikens, and we really kept an eye on him. I liked him. I know that the ladies like him, so he'd be a popular guy. But you know, he had that kind of focus, that kind of commitment. You know, you can't have talent without the commitment.
By the end of the year, we were working on a deal to run the Nextel Cup Series in 2004, and that was a huge surprise to me.
At the tender age of 23, Kasey Kahne was a NASCAR Nextel Cup driver. Making it to NASCAR's elite division was one thing, but for the first time in his career, winning would prove to be more of a challenge. In only 5 short seasons, Kasey Kahne had gone from racing on the family farm to racing's version of the major leagues. By 2004, he was driving for 3-time NASCAR champion Ray Evernham, From the outside, many wondered if Kasey's career was moving too fast.
Oh, just as we come back to Chicagoland, that's the race leader, Kasey Kahne.
To Kahne, everything was happening right on time.
Let me tell you, that young man in that 9 car, his heart is pounding away right now because he cannot make a mistake.
I was thinking that he's doing it again, meaning Kasey. I was thinking he's doing it again because all through his whole career, we'd move him up to the next level, and pretty soon he's doing things that he's just not supposed to do yet.
Kasey Kahne lost it. Oh, there's oil on the racetrack.
How close can you come to your first win?
Kasey Kahne, the race leader, has hit the wall. Kasey Kahne has led 207 of 267 laps tonight, and he has hit the wall hard.
That was the toughest loss of the year was that one for sure.
You know, he wants to win. You know, winning is number one, and if he runs second, he's going to figure out what could I have done to win.
In his first full season, Kasey finished second 5 times, an unprecedented rookie run. But for Kahne, second has never been satisfying. He drove away with the coveted Rookie of the Year award, pocketing $5.5 million. But it all seemed hollow without a race winner's trophy on his mantle. In the search for more seat time, he also ran the final NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races of the season, both with the same result.
We won both the races. I think it was exciting to win at Darlington and at Homestead.
Truck wins were nice, but entering 2005, he looked to finally grab his first NASCAR Nextel Cup win and avoid the dreaded sophomore slump.
Trouble up in turn 4. Kasey Kahne has slid and lost control of his car.
Kahne has tagged the wall and hard.
Kasey Kahne said that vibration is still there, and I think something broke. The team is headed to the garage right now.
The season began with high expectations, but frustrating results. His friends preached patience, and by the season's 11th race in Richmond, Virginia, that patience paid off.
That 9 car was way out there. He got boxed in twice, and that's what's cost him the lead. He's being really cautious with that race car. I'll give him credit for that, Kasey Kahne in the 9.
Spinning forward, caution's out.
All right, how's the car? Just the front tires are really blown up, so I just can't. 10-4, man, 10-4. All right, boys, 4 tires and fuel here, 4 tires and fuel.
Kasey Kahne has been waiting for these last 10 laps all his racing life, and the man he most wants to beat is the man right on his bumper, Tony Stewart.
All right, man, it'll be 7 to go when you get the green, okay? 7. 10-4.
Hey, that young man in that 9 car, his heart is pounding away right now because he cannot make a mistake. Don't miss a shift, don't spin the tires, don't make a mistake, and this is yours. Tony timed that restart perfectly. He's going to get a run on him going down into turn 1.
Stewart was there. Kahne had to give him enough room on the outside.
And Tony will be better on the outside. I think he can pin him down, maybe not.
Kahne's got to clear him, and he does.
I think we ran some of the fastest laps of the whole race. The last 5 laps were some of the fastest laps of the entire race.
2 more, bud, 2 more. White flag in front of you, bud. Give me 1 more lap.
The last lap, everything just seemed like it went fine. The car was perfect, and everything was good.
The biggest lap of Kasey Kahne's young racing life right here.
And no pressure from behind.
Off turn 4. Kasey Kahne is a winner at last.
Should get the checkered flag, Case. Checkered flag at the start finish.
There's a winner and a champion.
I don't know what to do. Come down pit road.
The last lap I got pretty excited, and it was really cool to be involved in his first win and at least be there. I think he appreciated that a lot, that I was there, and my parents, none of my parents could have, they weren't there for that one.
Immediately I called him and I left him a message and told him how proud I was of him.
I just told him, man, that was totally impressive, but totally really proud too.
You know, when you win and you make that accomplishment, they can't go back and rewrite the record books. That's one that's done, and you've got it.
Despite his breakthrough victory, Kasey's 2005 season was a high-horsepower roller coaster, with as many downs as ups. But his popularity with NASCAR fans continues to skyrocket, and he remains true to his hometown roots. He now signs autographs for fans where he once stood as a fan seeking autographs of his own, and now supports the family that supported his dream.
I think it's important to have the family around, and I think it helps them out a lot. And you know, on the same hand, it's always kind of been this way, so I don't know the other side.
The whole family has some kind of involvement. Shannon manages the foundation, Kasey Kahne Foundation. She has dinner with him every Monday night. She makes dinner for both the boys. Cale drives the motorhome for Kasey. Cale's there for Kasey 24/7. I run the store, the online store, and also the fan club.
The cousins he raced in the backyard now run his sprint team.
We just love racing and try to, you know, do the best at it, you know, whether it's for fun or for $1 million.
Dad is still the coach and the first person Kasey looks to for advice before and after a race. And he still returns to Enumclaw, only now he does so on Kasey Kahne Drive, named so on Kasey Kahne Day, with the key to the city on his keychain.
It was pretty neat. It was stuff that I wouldn't have ever expected, and especially to have it only my second year in Cup.
A bright future, a reputation to uphold, towering expectations.
That's the biggest thing to me, is just winning races, you know, not one a year, winning more than one a year, and to being in that chase for the Cup and having a chance to win the Nextel Cup is what we need to do.
For most, the experience would be crushing. For Kasey Kahne, it's simply part of a lifelong drive. Driven for success, driven to race, driven to win.